All right, my name is Mike Campbell. I am with a landscape architect with Whitman Recroft Associates, the project manager for this. And I actually worked on this project with the borough before Sean was here back in 2008. And we initiated some of the early concepts for the project.
I'm Hans Benford, also from Whitman Recort, and I'm a stormwater engineer. Been at Whitman for 8 years now.
See if you got one more USB spot. There we go. Actually, it's not over here. It's fine. All right. So, just real quick, we'll walk through the agenda, what we'd like to talk about tonight. We'll just do a brief introduction on the project. I assume everybody here is somewhat familiar with it. Talk a little bit about the partners, the funding, the history, take you through where we are in the design phase of the project, the scope of work, what we found with the existing conditions review that we've done on site, and then really walk you through the proposed improvements. That's kind of why we're here, to show you what we're proposing for the Windsor Avenue Green Street.
And you're targeting about 20 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, 6:45 now, so, okay. Real quick introduction. Project partners, we've been working with the Villanova Stormwater Partnership. Hans is a Villanova grad, and we've been working with them, and they're going to be doing some of the infiltration tests that we're proposing for the project. Project funding. The main grant is through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, and that's funded by William Penn Foundation, and then the Lower Merion Conservancy and the Borough of Narberth are providing matching grants. Correct me if I'm not right on that, Sean. It's a little bit, it goes around and around with the funding there. And the project history, as I mentioned, in 2008, we had worked with the borough. We worked on 3 projects. One was Walk Narberth, one was Windsor Avenue Green Street, and the other was Bike Narberth. And I'm glad to see that this one has come to fruition, and we're in the final design for the Windsor Avenue Green Street. So our scope and objective is to implement a green stormwater infrastructure along Windsor Avenue. This will serve as a pilot project for the borough. Why we like this spot along Windsor Avenue is because it's high visibility. A lot of people will see that in the borough. It's an opportunity to have an educational use, so schools can come visit this garden, interpretive signage, so that they can teach the youth why the borough is doing this, why it's important to handle our stormwater. It should be functional, beautiful, and low maintenance.
I'm going to also add, this was part of our open space plan, and the reason it's open space is because getting access and maintaining the field at the park. So that was kind of the earlier origin where those 3 items came from.
Sure.
So.
Thank you. Okay, so real quick, the timeline. We had notice received from the borough in February 2016. We jumped right on it. We had our surveyors out there, did a full field survey from the library all the way up Windsor Avenue on the south side of the roadway there. And we're in April, so we're presenting the preliminary concepts tonight. And we have this is a pretty fast track project to be able to get approval from the borough and go right into final design and then into construction, which we need to spend all construction dollars by October of 2016. So we need to move pretty fast on this after tonight, once we get kind of approval on the preliminary design. So what did we find? The existing conditions, part of the survey. The drainage area is limited by the crown and the roadway. So, you know, Windsor Avenue, there's a slope in the middle. All the drainage that's on the north side goes against the curb and flows down and directly into the Indian Creek through an inlet on the roadway. There's a low curb reveal, which causes challenges with our design. There's lots of utilities. There's underground utilities. Verizon has 2 sets of conduits, one that is within the street, and it's 2 feet off of the street, off of the curb, I'm sorry. And That conduit system is a creosoted wood conduit system, probably from 1915, and it's still active. So that pretty much told us right away we wanted to avoid doing anything in the street because excavation around that would cause that to collapse, and that's something we want to avoid. They also have a conduit system that's active, that's concrete encased behind the curb, and that's about 4 or 5 feet behind the curb. So that's another utility that has fiber optic in it, and it has active Verizon utilities in it, so we want to avoid that as much as possible. Overhead utilities, there's the electrical wires on the poles, and then we have the ball field. The outfield fence that runs along there is used. Hans and I were out there tonight, and there's all of that space is being used in that field, so we know space is an important commodity. Then there's a 100-year floodplain of Indian Creek. It also goes through the park as well. And there's mature trees along there as well. We know that shade trees are very important to the borough. We did an evaluation of the existing trees that are there. They're mostly red maples. They've grown a lot since 2008 when we were here last and proposed this project. However, they're not the best trees for that location. The roots are very shallow, and you can see a lot of those are, the root mats are exposed. And then the pin oaks, some of those are decaying from the center of the trunk. So Hans will walk you real quick through the watershed management.
Yeah, so why are we doing these stormwater management approaches? Where does it all come from? Back in 1978, the DEP passed Act 167 that requires the counties to implement watershed management plans on a tributary basis. We are in the Darby and Cobbs Creek watershed, more specifically the Cobbs Creek portion, but it all feeds into Darby Creek eventually. So in that, we are tasked to install these green best management practices to try to reduce the volume of water from certain storm events. In this case, Narberth is in Management District A within the watershed, which requires the reduction of the runoff from the 2-year storm to be reduced down to the 1-year storm. Now in this case, it is an example project. We're not actually developing, we're not paving the field out there and are required to reduce this volume of runoff, but like we said, it'll be a good example for the community to see what these kind of projects are supposed to look like. So basically, you can see the drainage area there with in the hatched area on one side of the roadway. And what benefit are we providing here? That runoff that was on the curb line, that south curb line, used to dump directly into Indian Creek. Granted, it's the culvert underneath the road, but there was no disconnection between the roadway and the natural stream. And by putting these curb cuts in, we are removing that by one level. So we are getting the runoff off of the roadway, which is a physical benefit, but also environmentally, we're able to get the runoff underneath the sidewalk, into the bioretention facility, into pre-treatment areas that are easily cleaned from sediment and just debris that travels in, runoff, trash, whatnot.
Do you have a pre and post expectation? Like what? I don't know. Is there any measurement of what's going on now versus what you anticipate or targeting?
Yeah, we'll get that. No problem. And then once it goes through the pre-treatment, then into the bioretention facility. As Mike said, hopefully we'll get infiltration tests back that will indicate that the groundwater is low enough and the soil is permeable enough to permit infiltration.
I think what that map was showing us, and I just want to verify, is that there really isn't any contributing area to this facility that is coming off of North Wynwood Avenue, correct?
Right.
That all the rainwater coming off of North Wynwood is being captured by an inlet.
There's an
somewhere
inlet up here.
Or
Is this the first idea?
correct, yeah.
This is Wynwood Ave here, and then if you were to take a left onto Windsor towards the library, yeah, it's a plan view. So, existing sidewalk that we're talking about with the trees here, and then our facility with the ball field down here.
I think an important thing to take away from this graphic right here is that this isn't going to solve all of Narberth's flooding problems. This is meant to treat, it's going to capture and treat this watershed here, which is beneficial because it's taking it away from the overall drainage that's entering Indian Creek. But we're not solving the entire borough's problems with these facilities. That's not what they're designed to do.
And how much bigger is the contributing area than the facility itself?
The
3 times
contributing
bigger?
area, well, the entire drainage area is 10,000. I'll get to it in a second.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay.
I'll be
I
quiet.
believe that's right. I didn't put the square footage, but it's 0.24 acres there in comparison to the 300 by 1,500 square footprint. Okay, so as I said, the pre-treatment forebays will provide a chance for it's required for a green BMP, but also it will be very easily seen where the trash and sediment needs to be removed from the facility. Behind that is the mulching layer for the plants that will be planted. And below that we have a 2-foot layer of biosoil media, and below that a stone storage layer with underdrain. Hopefully the underdrain doesn't need to be used, but it would be wise to install it in case infiltration is not possible and water can't pass through the bottom of the facility.
So the sidewalk remains where it is, but in some spots there's a sidewalk grate
Right.
for the water to flow
It would
down
be
or into the...
3-foot wide grate or so.
2
that-
foot wide, probably.
Okay.
Great. And it'd be, how many locations are those?
4.
4.
So yeah, well, I'll show you in a second. The water runs under the sidewalk into that pre-treatment area right at the end of the arrow, and then would flow into the main planting zone, and then down through the soil, through the biosol media. You reduce pollutants by filtering through the soil, and then infiltrate into the groundwater, hopefully. And the length of the facility is 200 feet, storage capacity of 1,700 cubic feet. That's including 6 inches of ponding within the facility. And we would be capturing the first 1.94 inches of rain from our contributing drainage area. And that's about it.
And how many, I'm asking you a loaded question, but how
Yeah.
many rainfall events do you get less on a percentage basis, less than 1.94 inches in a year?
I mean, the 1 year event